Hello, this is Bob, and I am going to be walking you through the basics of creating a level in VRQuest and a little bit about the interface and how everything works. So let's get started. This is your main interface when you boot the software. You have the Entity panel over here, your Editor panel, and then over here are your Properties tabs, which will change based on which area you're in. Right now we are in the Terrain Editor, which is this one selected. It means I can choose one of these colors and I can paint on the surface of this grass texture. I can also change the size of how big of a texture I paint by pushing the minus and the plus key on my keyboard. So I can get some small textures, or I can go larger. And you're going to need to learn this shortcut because it comes invaluable in the next step I'm going to show you. We'll add some different colors in here. So this is the texture editor. Now I'm using the arrow keys, or you can use, I think, WSAND does the same thing. And it'll let you scroll. You're currently looking at the grass, top view down. If you push the G key, it will give you the same angle. If you push the F key, it will orient it down at a different angle so you can see what's going on. And again, just moving the arrow keys to orient myself. You need to know what these key shortcuts are. You can read them up under here under Help. They will explain some of the different things you can do here. If you hold down the right mouse button, it will allow you to change. If you hold down the right mouse button, it will change the angle at which you're looking at the scene. So now you can actually look around. And with the combination of the arrow keys, you can fly around a particular area. And again, this is a skill that is incredibly useful, and you will need to know this, and the better and more comfortable you get with this, the more productive you'll be in the long run. Something I found out too is that if you want to get over a large map, you can see the edges of our map are a giant square. If you want to move quickly, you can hold the arrow keys and the shift key, and it will move you very, very fastly over, I wonder if that's a word. It'll move you very quickly over the terrain. And now we have to go figure out where we were. We were somewhere, but we may have to go back. So I'm flying up as big as I can. Now you can see the entire world is just the square. Oh, if life is only one giant world, one giant square, we're all in trouble. Okay, so here we are at our terrain. We've painted some different textures on there, nothing really fancy. Let's add a little more. Now I'll increase the scale, and we'll just kind of shift it across. Sometimes I'll just push the keys. By the way, if you're wanting to create perfectly straight roads, for example, I found that if you just hold your mouse down in the draw, of course I'm clicking, and you go to your G view, and I'm rolling the mouse wheel out to zoom out, by the way. From here, you can hold the button down, and then, like now, this is arrow up, and this gives me a nice, perfectly square, well, rectangular, a nice straight line here. It's not giving me any abbreviation. It's not moving around too much. And then if you go to the right and left arrows, you can draw cross streets. Of course, if you do this, you're going to want to orient everything else to this X and Y axis on your map, but it gives you really nice, accurate, and fast details because now you're just moving around with your arrow keys, and you can go in and create, for example, city streets or blocks that are perfectly straight, or maybe you're doing a sidewalk or something like that, and you want nice straight lines. So that's a little tip. and comes in handy, especially if you're trying to do some things. Again, this is the right click and using the arrow keys to move around. So we've painted a flat surface. Yay! If you didn't like a flat surface, you could come over here and go File and New Random Level, which will give you all kinds of hills and valleys. The drawback with this is that it tends to take more cycles off the computer, at least that's from my thought and experience. And I would rather do a flat level first and then add in the hills and valleys as I go. And we're going to do that right now. So let's say that right here in this little airport looking like thing, we'll put a little hill right there. So we go over here to shape mode, click it, and now when I mouse click, left click, it will give me a mountain. And if I hold the shift key down, it will dig a trench or dig a hole, and it keeps on going quite easily. And I can create a pond or a lake. It's really, really cool. Okay, same thing applies here. If I want to increase size, I can push the plus key or the minus key on the keyboard, and I can create a whole bunch of little mountains. Ooh, look at there, little mountains. I'm just going to outline this little area here with tiny little mountains. They're like cute puffy clouds. There we go. Alright, and of course you can also zoom in and see your pristine masterpiece of work and see what it might look like. Hey, that's cool. Looks jaggedy, but okay, we get the idea. There's some other cool features about this particular set of tools right here. By the way, these are open level, save level. I really don't use those. I use file, but I guess you're welcome to do whatever you'd like. So we're going to go to shape mode again, and we've got this little tiny square. Now we're going to make it really big and build up a outline. One of the things that I like to do is when I'm working in an area, when I'm all said and done and everything is finished, I like to build a berm around the entire area that I'm working on. Why do you want to build a berm, Bob? What's the point of this? Why are you telling us this? What it does is, otherwise, if you don't build a berm, when you're playing the game and you look up, you will see the nice flat edge of your cube, square reality, and it will look artificial. It'll look weird. But all of a sudden, hey, even with a little tiny berm around there, now it looks like distant hills and it looks more natural. So, but that's usually the last step that I'll do. I'm just showing you how to do that now, just for more information. Okay, let's say we want to make this entire area over here a nice pond, but we want it all to be the same depth. That's where we go into this tool. So we're going to shrink it down so it'll fit within this area. Now, what this does is it takes a measurement of wherever you are, and then as you move it around, it will make every other piece of dirt around it go to that same height. So if I'm here and I click, now as I start to drag around, you can see the bottom of the lake there starting to kind of flatten out. And this is a really fast way to make sure that when you're drawing something, it's nice and level. So, and now if I quit clicking, I'm going to use my right click mouse button again to swivel around. Again, this skill of learning to manipulate with the right mouse button for your view and the arrow keys is something you need to practice and very useful. So here we are. Now, if I do this on the top, you're not going to see any change in height because this is all nice and flat. Unless I get up here to this dirt berm, you'll see now it brings it back down to that height that I started with. If I start here on top and click, now it's going to bring everything up to the dirt berm height that I started with. So let's finish out this level. I'm going to start here underwater, and I'm going to run it back. This is the fastest way to create a large area of something, a tier, if that's the case, if you're doing a stair-stepped area. And now we have a pond, and that looks pretty cool. You can make it deeper, again, going back to the shape mode and just holding a shift key, and maybe there's a hole in the middle of your pond. There's a hole, there's a hole, there's a hole in the bottom of the sea. I know, but you'll have to deal with me over the next little bit while I'm explaining this, and then it'll all be better. So I'll create some nice little lines here, and we'll go into shape mode and build some water. And then I'll go over here to blend mode. I will take this and now draw. Oops, not blend mode, sorry. Level mode, excuse me. I was going to show you blend mode next. But we'll draw some water and make it all the current height. And let's see, we need some peaks here. So I wanted to show you what blend mode does. Sorry, the crash threw me off my game, but I will be okay eventually. Alright, so now we come down, look at this. We've got these peaks and valleys that are pretty high, would look great in the Rockies, but maybe not if you're doing a farm. I do not use this stored level mode. You're welcome to experiment with it, but I really don't use it. I use blend mode quite often. Blend mode is, again, a circle, make it bigger and smaller. What this does is it averages edges, and I love this. It makes it look like it's a weathered. So if we have this nice sharp area here, we just click this and run it over it, and it weathers down the terrain. So it looks like it's eroded and, in my mind, much more natural. We can also change the scale so we can do this all at once, and it can take the average, it'll bring up your holes and take down your peaks. So depending on how you set this up, but when it's all done, I believe it looks pretty cool and very smooth looking. I use it a lot of times for the edges on water because I don't know of many waterways that just naturally fall off into a sheer cliff, but some places do. But it's great if you're trying to, like I said, if you have a farm, maybe you want your horses to come down to the water and you want them to look a little smoother on the access. That might be better than having them fall over the cliff and drown. But hey, my imagination runs free. Okay, so this ramp mode for this particular horse problem we were just talking about can be solved with ramp, which is that stair-steppy thing. So I'm going to set my circle about there. Now, the key on this one is wherever you start when you click left click is going to be the top of your ramp or the bottom, depending if you're going up or down. And then wherever I end up is going to be the second part. That's where it's going to end. So it's going to create a natural slope from up here to down here. So let's show you. And oh yeah, depending on how close the 2 points are will determine the height or the angle of the ramp. So if I come way back here and I drag, I click and drag, and then I let it go right here, that's going to be a really nice long ramp. If I come right here to the edge and I click and drag just that far, that's going to be a short area. Again, we've got some wackiness carved out, so we're going to just kind of actually draw this down. And so I'm going to click here, drag down, click here, drag down. So now you can see that we've got a nice smooth flowing drop into our small pond here, but it still looks like we've manipulated this. So we're going to use our blend mode, and we're going to smooth all this out. And now, when we go to look at this, give that are extra good. Smoothie smooth here. Now when we go to look at this, this looks pretty cool. So now it just kind of slopes down into our water, and that's the way to go. Much better. Okay, so that's basically terrain. I'm sure you can come up with some cool stuff. Oh, something I've found that's kind of fun. I've had questions about how to do underground stuff. Underground is really hard to do in here because obviously if you start digging down, you're going to hit water. You can change those settings. I'll show you. So if you didn't want any water in your level, you can drop the water level so that it'll go away completely. Or what you could do is go back over to shape mode and make the biggest circle you can and bring it up to the height. Something that's reasonable, maybe about there. We'll call it that. Now I'm going to miniaturize this, move it, get it smaller, go back to my level mode. And now I'm going to bring a nice big flat plane up, and we're going to do Disney World on this. And for those who didn't know, Disney World was not actually built at ground level because the water tables are so high there that if they had dug down to put the tunnels and stuff that they currently have in the property, they would be underwater. So what they did is they built everything on the ground, like the tunnels themselves, on the surface, and then they buried it in dirt, which brought it up to a different level, and then they built the castle on top. And that's my inspiration for this idea. So here we are, and I'm going to cut a hole. This will be our tunnel. And I'm going to cut a hole right through there. So now it's created a ravine. But if you wanted this to be underground, you can simply put stuff over the top or put a giant stone or something, and then you'll have a natural cave entrance. And we might as well talk about entities since that's where we're at. So I'm going to look for a big stone I can place right there. So let's go to entities, click the plus sign. It's off the screen here. Here we go. The entities panel is pretty easy to navigate. Let me see if I can center it up a little better for you. You've got characters. These are all the pre-built characters. They're divided up by different eras, buildings, lots of buildings. I think there's over 3,000, 4,000 models in this lot. And objects. And of course we need a bunch of barrels because you never know when you're going to need a barrel. So let's go to rocks. We click this down arrow and that gives us our filter settings. We're looking for objects, rocks. There we go. And there's a nice big rock right there, so we're going to click that. There's a preview of what it'll look like. I'm going to close this, and there's the rock. If I hit R, it will rotate my rock 15 degrees each time, I think. And we're going to set it like right there. And we can do different things, by the way. So once you have this object here, if you right click on it, or you just click it, sorry, not right click, but if you just click it, you get these little menu items here: position, rotate, scale, properties, extract, delete, and lock. And I use all of these. So position is this X, Y, Z coordinate. You can move it around, and the little square moves in these two angles directly. And if you look at it from the top, then you have your third axis. You can move it in and out. Scale, well, rotate. If you don't like doing the 15-degree thing and you need more accuracy, you can click and drag on these circles. That'll give you more accuracy. Scale, if you click in the white box, it will increase and scale everything proportionally. If not, you want to do it on a certain axis, you can do just one like that. And again, we're going to leave that. Let's see. Extract. You click it. Now it is pulled out of the list. It's free. And if I hold the Shift key down, I can copy it when I click. And I'll place a bunch of rocks. And all I had to do was grab the one. Isn't that cool? Okay, and then of course delete deletes the object, and locks it in place, and I can't change it. If I unlock it, then of course then I can. But well. So now we are underground. We might have to, when you see the flickering like that, that means you have two textures, two parts of your model that are overlapping, and you will probably want to split these apart and maybe move them back. And as you move them back out of the way, it should stop that flickering better. So anyway, that's a quick way to do a tunnel or an underground scene. We'll go back up above ground. There's our tunnel from above, and it would be easier to manipulate and move things. You can't cover it back up with dirt. No, I'm sorry, but again, just a quick way to maybe solve a problem if you were thinking about doing that. Okay, let's see. Didn't have some water. Yeah, I do have water. Here we go. Alright, let's see. Let's add a house. Objects. No, we want buildings. What kind of house? Let's go with something small. Let's go with a hut. There we go. That's cool, huh? Alright, boom. There's our hut. Again, we can rotate it around. And we have a hut next to a small place on the water. Something I found out, if you get this like too high or too low, when it's highlighted you can push the enter key and it will now drop it down to the current surface level, whatever that is. Of course, if it's sticking out a little over that edge, it probably won't go fully down, but it's a quick way to kind of make sure your trees are actually planted on the ground instead of in the air. Although it would be a cool world to see a bunch of air trees. So there's our hut. Something about this model I'll show you. You'll notice if I can select this that it is red, but it's not letting me do that. So okay, it's red. If it's red, that means it is part of the background. It is going to be static, and it won't move during your game. But yeah, we'll worry about that in a minute. Let's go to properties. So this is the hut. Here's our performance tab over here. It's got the name of our model here. You can change that. Let's call it. It has the script and behavior. Of course, I don't think you will need a script. Oh, there's the red lines. That means it is static. Green lines means it's active, just in case you need to know. Invisible, key, loop sound, blah, blah, blah. All of that you will not need for the hut because the hut doesn't do anything. Advanced. Whoa, here we get some more fun tools. Static mode, that means this. If I turn that off and hit no, then this will turn green. And that means that if you're going to be doing something with this during a live game, which is pretty advanced and you probably won't need that, then I won't worry about it. So let's go back to properties. Okay, so we're going to leave that static mode, yes. Occluder and occludee gets into whether or not this is blocked by other objects, and you probably don't need to know any of that. And let's see, is immobile, physics on. I usually will run into some issues with always active sometimes. A script won't work the way I want, and I'll have to turn that on. Physics on when it's like this is probably not a good idea, because it might, when it's green, it might tend to want to move. If you ever start a game and you find objects disappear or move on their own volition, it's probably because physics is on and always active is also on. But because this is just a hut, we should be okay. It should just be a hut, and we don't need to do anything else with it. Oh, entities. A very important entity or set are up here on this tab called markers. Player start is very important. Ambient zone, audio zone, image zone, text zone, trigger zone, video zone. I use all these. I don't use wind zone or floor zone that much, but you're welcome to experiment. If you need a light, these are pin lights or point lights, and these are spotlights. You just click it and drag it. You can adjust all the colors of all of these lights, so these are just for quick reference. But player start is always a good one to have, so we're going to click that. It puts it over here, and I'm going to want to start. This is where my game will start when I test this level. And speaking of testing levels, you're going to do that. So we've been through all of these icons and the paint texture. We'll get to paint grass in a little bit, but we are currently in entity mode. That means we can click that and it will do something when we move it. Now we're going to run away and skip over all these to the rocket ship. That is going to be our test level, because we want to see what this thing looks like. So we are now in the test level, and it started where I put down my little player start, and everything is automatically set for us, the height of the player, and ooh, now the water looks really clever. Instead of that ugliness we had before of light blue, now we have like, it looks like real water, and it breathes, and then we can go under the water, I guess, if we get deep enough. Oh, there we go. Now we're underwater and we get the cool effects. Pretty clever. Then we're going to bob back up. We should breathe again. Oh, much better. And we've created a VR game with a hut in a wall. And I guess we have a tunnel on the other side we could explore if we wanted to. But I'm using my W, A, S, and D, or my arrow keys to move around and look with my mouse. This is what it would look like in VR. We are not testing VR right now because I do not have my headset hooked up to this, but it runs just that quickly as well in VR. So hit escape and we're back out to the main screen. So let's add a couple of more entities. We're going to go back to Entity Objects. Let's put some trees in here. Trees. And let's try an animated tree. I'll push the R key, we'll spin the tree around. Point. Now there's a tree. It says it's animated, which means it moves. And that's what it's doing. Moving gently in the wind. It already has a shadow. You can change all of the variables of this scene in another area, which I will show you momentarily once we get to that point. Alright, now we're going to do something called paint grass. Paint grass, sounds exciting. What is it? Let's show you. So if you want to paint grass, you're actually going to be given one color. I know, it's hard to believe. So there we go. I'm now painting grass. Doesn't look like much, but trust me, this is the coolest thing you will have ever seen. This is procedural vegetation. That's a mouthful. So as we draw this gray, nondescript, simple-looking thing, look at that! Grass appears, kind of like what happens the day after I mow my grass. The weeds grow incredibly well. So now they don't have any competition. But, there we go. So there's our procedural vegetation, which adds realism to the nth degree, and wow, that's cool, man. I'm going to show you how you can control how much grass and what kind of grass is there. Unfortunately, this only paints one type of grass, so pick your grass carefully. Make sure it's the grass you want. Otherwise, you're stuck with it, and your scene will forever have that grass. But look at that. It's good. This looks cool. This is awesome. Okay, so now we're going to move on. We showed you what entity mode was. Now we're going to get into some characters. And characters are their own world, and they take their own expertise, so pay close attention as we cover these things. And let's start over here with Character Creator. Character Creator, it starts off with this particular guy here. He's somehow standing embedded in a rock right now, but maybe that's the way he likes it. You can change his hair. We're going to give him wavy black hair. Blink. His body. Let's stick him in a blue shirt. You shouldn't see those tats anyway. That's just not cool. Come on, man. You're out in public. Show me the blue t-shirt. I'm waiting. It's got to load, so, and it's recording, and all this stuff takes Maybe he's just being sensitive. He doesn't really want to. Okay, but we will go ahead and do legs, decorated shirt. And we'll say jeans black. Got to get rid of the loincloth. There we go. Now we're starting. And bare feet? No, let's give him some sandals. He can be bohemian. So there's a character. You can also change some other things like his facial hair, the skin color, all that stuff can be adjusted by moving things around. But he's fine. You can save the character. It'll put it in your user character file. And you can bring him in and use him for other things, or her. There's women and kids in here too. But I really just want to get back to the entity mode, and we're going to load a pre-created character. This is just so much easier. And let's bring in our late modern female with the most excellent hairdo. So there she is. And you notice she's green. That means what? She's active. She is not static. So that means she's going to be doing something in this scene, and that's what we're all here to find out. So we're going to rotate her around, and I'm going to place her right there. Maybe she's just a guide showing us around the Serengeti National Park here, something like that. Okay, so she's there. She looks very official. She's breathing hard. She's been walking a long ways. She's got nice blue shoes. Don't match that skirt, but that's okay. Now let's add something for her to do. So we have this thing called properties. Go back to the properties. I'm going to drag this out because this is really cool. We don't really need any of these things to look at because we're going to be looking at just a couple of things. So our first behavior up here is called follow waypoint. I'm going to lay down a path, and it'll have nodes or dots basically, and this character will walk along there, and that's pretty much it. I think it loops, and if you don't want it to loop, you just want them to go one way, and you can click that one. The follow waypoint and speak, it will follow, and if you're near, it will talk. The get close and speak is kind of cool. On this one, the character will follow you around and try to get close to you, and when it does, it will talk to you. Stand and speak, it will stay where it is, it'll turn to you, and it will talk to you. Stand idle means it'll just stand there and look at you like, what are you looking at, buddy? Walk away is cool because it will, when you get close to it, it will turn around and walk off in a random direction. Wander around means, hey, I've got my own free will. I'm an AI. I can go do what I want, and it will do it. So there's some cool things to experiment with, and then there's a custom, but just don't worry about those. Worry about these few here. Let's try stand and speak. So when the player is within the range of 200 units, usually I think that's meters, it will talk to you. What voice? Well, let's hope this is going right. We're going to go 0 for United States English. It is going to save its speech pattern here, and we're going to type something in. We're going to say that. Now we're going to hit play. Hopefully this works right. Hello? Play. Play. It's not playing. I don't know why. Play! Yep. Okay, so maybe that didn't work. Let's try deleting this. We're going to record something. Ready? Cannot record until lip sync is finished. Alright. Testing 1, 2. Speak into the microphone and press the stop recording button when finished. It's recording sound. Hello, I'm a character. And we will wait a second. It's actually creating lip sync file that goes along with this. Okay, that should be ready. Let's hit play. Speak into the microphone and press the stop recording button when finished. It's recording sound. Hello, I'm a character. Alright, so that silly recording should be able to be seen in our test level. So let's go to that. Back in our hut, and you see our graphs. Speak into the microphone and press the stop recording button when finished. It's recording sound. Hello, I'm a character. So there you can use your voice. It's disturbing to hear my voice coming out of this gorgeous character, but oh well, I'm not the one that gave him the blue shoes. So anyway, here we go, wandering around the hut. Now, you can set this, I think, to replay the audio, but again, that's another day, another tutorial. What I do want to show you is how you can adjust some of these other things. Notice that this character is very active, and she will follow me where I go. I'm going to show you how to make her walk on a path, but I want to show you something about these plants here. If you hit the tab button, it brings up your metrics, which shows how fast this thing is rendering. A whopping 60 frames per second right now. Hit it again, and we get to the magic screen. This is where all the specialty things happen. We're going to work on right now our vegetation type. So this is for the procedural vegetation right here. This one right here, that button. So if we left click it and we go down to a icy, now it changes all of the plants to icy. We go to Weedy 05. Now we have Weedy 05 plants everywhere. If we go to brown sticky, wow, we now have brown sticky plants. Isn't that cool? There's grass. There's a lot of different kinds of plants you can choose from. So explore and have at it. Enjoy your weeds and grass. So one of the things that it can also do is it can change the amount of plants. Now, these are kind of random, so you'll get different heights and whatnot. But let's say you want a whole bunch of plants. Come down to vegetation quantity over here under quality settings. And now if we ramp this up, it's going to, we'll take it all the way up to 100. It should put out a whole bunch of plants. If we make this go up to a big width, now it should make them really wide. And we go up here, now it's going to make them really tall. Whoa! We are. Push tab again to turn off your screen. Oh, yep, we're basically in a jungle. And by the way, this is a quick way to create a jungle kind of thing. And that's pretty friggin' cool. Look at that. So, our lady's out here in the clear path. Let's go back to our tab screen. I'll show you some other stuff. Look up here at the sky. That doesn't look like much of a savanna. Let's see if we can find a savanna type thing. You want to go to world settings and sky type, and here are all the different skies that we have available. You can click on one of these. It's kind of cool. Sunset's a really nice looking one. Look at that. Now, yeah, see? Let's see, what else do I use? Terrain type. That just changes the different graphics that are related to the painting when you're painting terrain. If you want it to rain in your scene, you can do light rain, heavy snow, light snow. The water settings that I told you about are all over here. You can change the height of the water. Where is that at? Water height up there. You can make it red, green, blue, change the intensity of it, the transparency. All this stuff is selectable. The overall, these are like your macro settings here, the world settings, so you can change reflections and shadows, make them more, add more vegetation. So if I bring this down, it will make the vegetation very thin and see-through. Ghost vegetation, maybe. Could be for a new thing. I don't know. I haven't tried that yet. Quality settings, that again, this stuff, I don't mess with very much. Shader options, these are how you can control the quality of what you're running, like the entities, how they render. Again, I don't mess with this. Camera settings, I don't mess with those very much. Bloom, you can see what it does. It makes everything kind of flare. I will mess with this when I'm almost done, like just to give it a little extra edge. Vignette is the edge up here. It'll put a darker edge. Sometimes I really don't like having any vignettes, so I'm going to get rid of it. I don't use much else of this. The fog is kind of nice. You can do some fog settings and put fog in your background. I do tend to use a lot of ambience level, which is the, let me show you what ambience level looks like. Doesn't that look cool? We changed just the sky made all that difference. So we're going to change the ambience level, and that's over here. Where are you? And you'll see that it changes like the overall quality of the ambience. Like maybe put it about there. That looks a little more natural. And then you can also change surface level, means that's the level of the sunlight that gets to the surface. And just, you keep adjusting until it kind of has the feel you want. And it gives you a nice, very nice effect. See that? Alright, so let's go back to our interface. Go to a top-down view. And there is our character. I'm going to draw a path. So go up here to draw a waypoint path. When you click it, it's going to put a star or a dot. You can see it better when I click. And oop. But there it is. There's the star. Now that one is kind of boring because it's just a point. And if I have follow waypoint, it's not going anywhere. So I'm going to erase that and do it again, but I'm going to show you something a little bit different this time. Now when I click it, I'm going to draw on the screen with my left mouse. And I'm using my right arrow keys, and I'm going to have them walk around. Right back to the start. Now I'm going to stick the character. We got to go back to entity mode to select the character. And I'm going to place them on the path. Go to properties. Now I'm going to do follow waypoint. And we're going to watch what happens when we go into the test level. Right? We're in the test level, and wow, she's already off and following that waypoint. But she is walking along that invisible path that we laid out, and we can kind of follow her as I try to catch up. Oop, there she turned. Remember, we made that big turn. And the cool thing is, she will try to watch you. Look at that. See, when you walk in front of her? She's still looking at you. Oh, by the way, did you see that she had lip sync that was automatically generated from your sound file? Very cool. You can also use the speech synthesis there if you don't want to record your voice. But have your friends come over and you can record a whole bunch of voices. Okay, so she reached the end of that particular path and she just turned back around and followed it back around the other way. You can also overlap that over, one dot over the other one so that she will continue to walk in the same direction. But that's what she's doing. So if you have a bunch of people in a room, they can follow the waypoint. Very smooth animation. This is a really good looking feature and really excels in what VR Quest is doing here. Very cool. Alright, back to the interface. We have gone over characters. We have gone over the waypoint. By the way, if you want to go back in and edit this path now, if I want to move that right there, the best thing to do is go to waypoint editing mode and then just click and hold that and drag. Okay, so that's what those two things are for. We've done character. We're going to structure editor next. Let's have her walk to a building right here, but we need to make this building from scratch. We'll go to structure editor. This is our what do they call that? This is our keystone, I guess, and this will be the corner of the building where everything else is made. So that little item right there, and boom. Now our keystone is, where did it go? It's over here somewhere. But anyway, we are now on the bottom floor is just a dark green tile, and you can see I'm moving that around. If I want to put down a particular pattern, I can choose from this box over here. I also have other patterns I can load, if I can remember how to do that. But, well, we'll go with this. There's my first box. And I've built just the corner of that building. Let's make a wall now. So we go over here. Right now I'm on floor. I'm going to go to wall. And now I'm going to click one of these pictures here. And I'm going to click and place a wall. Now, if I want to change this, I push the R key again. And I'm currently on, that's where I want to be. R. And I'll click it around, so I'm on this wall, and now I'm doing here and here. Now, if I want to go back to floor and put a roof in, I can roll my mouse wheel up and I change my floor height. So now I'm going to build a roof, and you can build things like stairs and steps. These are things I will leave you to experiment with, and you can try those. Now we're going to go back out to our main window, and you will see that I have built a little mini building here. And there is our keystone. But what's cool is this acts just like any other building. And if I hit R, it'll rotate, and I can move it and place it. And that's pretty cool. Ta-da! Alright, let's talk about sound. Sound is very important. So we've got the character starting here. I'm going to go and turn this around so we're facing our lovely character. And I'm going to put place right here in front where when I go forward it's going to play some audio. So first we need to go to Entity, and I need a marker. I need a particular zone called an audio zone. And I'm going to place that right there. And I'm going to click it, and I will go to Properties, and it will play audio when your player crosses into this. It's going to play an audio file, and we're just going to pick a generic audio, and let's see if we can find some talking or something here. Civil rights, there we go, civil rights narrator. Hit open, and now because this will be invisible, I need to know when I'm actually standing in the zone. You don't have to do what I'm doing here, but it makes it easier when you're testing. I like to use a barrel. Put a barrel right in the middle. You can also change this zone. You can move it around, and you can move these individual items to make it a larger zone or a smaller zone, depending. And that comes in very handy. So let's test this and see what it does. So there goes our character. There's our pre-done house. And if you remember, that's our audio zone, so it should start talking.
Governor George Wallace blocked the doorway at the University of Alabama to deny entry of 2 African-American students.
Wow, that is a great narrator. I don't know who that is, but you should get an Oscar. He's got some great narration. So there we are in our little secret room, emerging onto the
building and
Savannah.
register for classes at the newly desegregated university.
And that's how an audio zone works. This is kind of a cursory overview of what's going on here. There are a lot more things you can do. You have to be creative and kind of apply your designs, and some of this is experimentation. A lot of times I will create something and then just start adding stuff to it. Oh, by the way, that you saw over here under the entities, there was also an ambient zone. This is really cool. It plays a file that loops. So I use this for background noise like wind or birds or whatever you want to loop, or music. If you find a clip of music and you just want music playing. And then the audio zones for like the individual events. Image zones will display an image up on the screen that follows your view. Text zones will display text that you type in. Video zones will play a video clip. They have to be at this point MP4 files, and you have to also have the audio on a separate WAV file, and you put those together to make the video play audio. And that might change at some point, but that's how it works right now. There's also a multiplayer social VR mode. That's beyond the scope of what I'm going to show you today. But if you do want, make sure you save your level. You can also, export that level to the VR Quest for the Oculus Quest. And right now it works with Windows mixed reality headsets directly. If you haven't plugged in, these two buttons will work. You can also save a standalone level. So if you want to save out a game that you can play on any PC, you can save this and then send that file or a zip file of all of the little files that go with it. And that will allow you to share this with your friends. The save level to cloud is for the Oculus Quest, so it can find it. You can also import models, but it's still needs a little work. You can change your views. These are the same kinds of buttons that we had before. So thank you for your time. Hopefully you got something out of this. I know I sure did. Don't wear blue shoes with a skirt. Talk to you soon.